You may not have noticed, but the Nebraska Cornhuskers and the 16th ranked Indiana Hoosiers have a huge big noon on Fox showdown Saturday that will have ripple effects in the rest of the Big Ten. And we're all about it. Locked on Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked on Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked on Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, coming up on 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer. And I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So the Huskers and the Hoosiers are going to hang for a little bit on Saturday afternoon in Bloomington. Got some Big Ten injury news. And, the Big Ten and the SEC looks like they're putting together a scheduling agreement as we move forward towards super conferences. I'll have a story on that. And our Big Ten Classics and live action for the weekend all coming up like we do on Thursdays. One of the biggest games of the Big Ten schedule this weekend features the 5-1 Nebraska Cornhuskers and the 6-0, 16th ranked Indiana Hoosiers in Bloomington. It's going to be awesome. The game's sold out, which is unusual for Indiana. They don't sell out a lot of football games, but the excitement is palpable over there. And the game will be featured on Fox's big noon game of the week. Nebraska had a great deal of hype and a lot of momentum going into the season with their five-star true freshman quarterback, Dylan Raiola, who I love to watch play myself, being at the helm of Matt Rule's offense. Things reached a fever pitch when they blew out Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, the Sanders kids, and the Colorado Buffaloes. By the way, Colorado only 2 losses. They're turning out to be a little better than people thought, I think. Now, Raiola draws a lot of comparisons to Patrick Mahomes. He's completed 67% of his passes, 9 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. All in all, very good for a freshman. But the Huskers' hype and the momentum stalled a bit a couple weeks later when they got into that Friday night nationally televised game against Illinois. It was an exciting game. It was a great game. It was a fantastic atmosphere. But it went overtime, and Nebraska, in disappointment, they lost the game. Very close game. And they kind of stalled out a little bit at that point. Still winning after that, but they managed to win a lackluster game against Purdue, which they trailed 3-0 in the second half. Then they managed kind of a punchy on the mouth win over Rutgers, 14-7. And that's where they're at right now. Meanwhile, the Indiana Hoosiers, they come into this game not only 6-0, but they're one of 2 teams in the country that have never trailed for a single minute the entire season. Army, believe it or not, is the other one. And they've been led by first-year head coach Curt Cignetti, who seems to have turned this program around with lightning speed. I don't think anybody, look, they were hopeful he would turn it around. I don't think anybody thought that he'd turn it around this fast. And things are looking pretty good in Bloomington right now. Part of it was he brought 13 kids with him from his successful James Madison program, and they're performing at a high level against better competition than they were facing at James Madison. The high-flying Hoosiers have topped 40 points in 5 of their 6 games so far this year, and that will present a big challenge for the Huskers defense. While Nebraska has their own fantastic freshman quarterback in Dylan Raiola, who has garnered a lot of attention here, people are just now getting on the bandwagon and noticing Indiana's quarterback, 5th-year senior and Ohio transfer Kurtis Rourke. He leads the Hoosiers, and he's coming to Bloomington as the 2022 MAC Player of the Year. Kid can play football. He's got great pocket awareness. He reads defenses really well, enough to excel in Indiana. Indiana will run a lot of RPO. He knows what to do. He reads the defenses. He's doing a great job. He's thrown for over 1,700 yards, 14 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. In fact, his 2 interceptions came on the Hoosiers' first 2 drives against Maryland, and they still won that game easily. Other than that, he's been great at taking care of the football. Another interesting point about Saturday's game is that both teams come into Bloomington coming off a bye week. They can be rested. They can be ready to go. They're going to have been scouted each other out on film, and they're going to come together with their game plans ready to go. So that should be something very interesting. They'll be fresh. Now, the Huskers need to make sure that they don't get caught looking ahead a little bit. They got a game with Ohio State the next week. And after that, they could go on a little bit of a mini run with dates against UCLA, USC, and Wisconsin before closing things out versus Iowa. A win against any one of those teams, just one win, and Nebraska will become bowl eligible for the first time since 2016. We've talked about this a lot here on this podcast, how important that is for Huskers fan to cross that threshold and at least be bowl. They got bigger fish to fry, but let's get bowl eligible here. This is something that has been eluding them for some time, and that really bugs Nebraska fan. So they're looking to get bowl eligible with a win either this week or anyone. They only need one more. They'll be bowl eligible. Got the whole rest of the season to take care of it. Meanwhile, Indiana, believe it or not, became the first bowl eligible team in the country 2 weeks ago. It's really it's unbelievable. They're on a roll, but they're looking for more than that as well. So if they get by Nebraska and if they beat Washington at home, Michigan State on the road, and a home date against a Michigan team, which isn't as good as Michigan usually is, Indiana could be going into that Ohio State game of their own 10-0. It's possible. It's possible. And that will be a game the Buckeyes might get caught looking ahead because the week after they play Indiana, they get Michigan. I'm just saying, it's something to think about. It's something to put out there, out in the atmosphere, and let it just kind of breathe a little bit. Now let's talk about the defenses. Nebraska's defense is good. Indiana's is sneaky above average. The Huskers pass rush has 20 sacks already this year. Defensive lineman Ty Robinson and James Williams, who's just a sophomore, he's listed third on the depth chart, but he gets in there and he sacks people. They both have 4 sacks each, and they'll be looking to get into the Hoosier backfield a little bit. The Huskers have 7 interceptions this year. And as we told you, Rourke for Indiana does a great job of taking care of the football, but corner Malcolm Hartzog Jr. for Nebraska, he's already got 2 picks this year. Going to be looking for that. The Hoosiers have 19 sacks so far. They do a good job getting pressure on opposing quarterbacks. 5 of those sacks belong to Mikhail Camara. James Carpenter has 3. And good news for the Hoosiers, senior linebacker Jalen Walker, who was injured and left the Northwestern game a couple weeks ago. He's come back. He's expected to return and be good to go for Saturday. So I'd say in the meantime, just sit back and enjoy the Huskers and the Hoosiers. Indiana's a touchdown favorite in this game. A lot of people are looking forward to this. Going to be a big deal. While I got you here, I got a couple programming notes for you. Tomorrow we'll preview the entire Big Ten weekend like we always like to do on Fridays, but it begins with some Friday Night Lights with the Oregon Ducks, who are the most talked about team in the Big Ten right now, fresh off of their win over Ohio State. It's a possible letdown spot. It's a short week on the road, Friday night tilt at Purdue, where occasionally for night games at Purdue, highly rated teams have come in and lost before. Don't want to overlook this game. Purdue's starting to play a little bit better, but it's a classic letdown spot for the Ducks. They need to avoid that. And then Saturday, we're going to go live here on Locked On Big Ten on our YouTube page a little earlier than usual. Those that like to join us live Saturday, we usually go pretty late at night, right after that 7:30 NBC game, but we're going to go a little earlier. We're going to watch the 3:30 Eastern time, CBS, 12:30 Pacific, Michigan and Illinois. And as soon as that game is over, we're going to go live on Locked On Big Ten. So we invite you to join us there. Make an appointment on your phone or your calendar to join us. I'm anticipating that will be around 6:37 p.m. Eastern time, 3:34-ish Pacific. So hope to see you then with my immediate reaction to that game and all the other games, including Nebraska and Indiana from earlier, as well as the rest of the Big Ten slate and your reaction on the comment section as well. Also want to invite you to check out our website, talkbig10.com. All of our podcasts go there. You see the crawl if you're watching on video. That's the number 10, talkbig10.com. All the podcasts are there chronologically. We group them by school. And for example, this one will go under Indiana and Nebraska. And We have a link there for your convenience if you want to buy some merchandise from your favorite schools and root on your team with new shirts and hats and all that stuff from your favorite school. It's all right there for you at Talk Big Ten. So check that out while you're out there perusing some other podcasts of ours from back in the day. Get caught up on the week. Also want to ask you to subscribe, if you don't mind. Subscribe and follow and share and like Locked On Big Ten. Subscribing is free. Always will be free. It's not like free for 90 days or try it out. No, it's just free. So subscribe, just click the little button and you're good. We're on the same page. You get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. All right, we might have a joint Big Ten SEC scheduling agreement coming up, and I will tell you what that means. Plus, we'll update some injuries, and then we'll have our Big Ten Classics in live action that you don't want to miss this weekend. All that coming up right here on Locked On Big Ten. I always tell you, watching games is fun, but it's even more fun if you got a little action on it. That's why FanDuel, I'm here to tell you about them. It's awesome. Like football, for example, NFL football. You know, FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, right there while the games are going on. You get a hunch in the middle of the game, check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, all that in-game stuff. It's all right there, right on the same page where you place all of your bets. So you get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's at FanDuel.com. FanDuel.com. Thursday night tonight action. I like some NFL. The Broncos at the Saints. Broncos -2. I've seen it -1.5. FanDuel -2. The over-under at 37.5. It's a low number. I think it'll crawl over that number. It's a pretty low number. Sean Payton's homecoming back to New Orleans, where he used to coach. Now the coach of the Broncos. I like the Broncos in this one at -2. You can pick whatever you want. Go pick it up at FanDuel.com. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Well, thank you for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen every day, especially you everydayers out there. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe on YouTube and share and follow and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And don't forget our website, talkbig10.com. All right, so a week or so ago, we talked about how the Big Ten and the SEC were going to be meeting in Nashville. A lot of big wigs, conference commissioners, athletic directors, that sort. And it sounds like they're coming up with a scheduling agreement where the Big Ten and the SEC could play each other 12 to 20 times a year in their non-conference games and fill them with playing each other. It would be 12 extra games if the SEC increases its conference schedule from 8 to 9 conference games. It could be as many as 20 interconference games if the Big Ten reduces its conference schedule from 9 games to 8. Right now, they don't play the same amount. And both sides want to have the same amount because even though they have this agreement, they're going to be fighting each other for playoff spots. And, you know, maybe the SEC is thinking, we don't want to play more than 8 SEC games because we don't want to take the risk of getting another loss. Well, the Big Ten's not going to go out here and go, look, we got 9 games where we play conference. We're playing Penn State and Ohio State and Michigan and USC. That's not fair. If we got to play extra one of those, in addition to playing you guys, we might take on an extra loss. That might be the difference between making the college football playoffs or not. So the first thing you got to agree on is the SEC going to increase from 8 conference games to 9, or is the Big Ten going to come down from 9 to 8? Once they hammer that out, then they'll start using their non-conference slots to play each other. More marquee games means more money, of course, right? It's going to be more attractive for some sort of package with all the networks that carry SEC and Big Ten. Largely SEC's ESPN, Big Ten is everybody else. Big Ten Network, NBC, CBS, Fox. And they'll have to come up with some agreement on how to split those between the networks, of course. Follow the money trail, they'll get it done. But anyway, they can ask for a pretty penny, ask for more money. They're offering not only conference schedule games that are awesome, but marquee non-conference games against each other. It raises the boat, more money coming in, the networks will pay it. So that's the thinking. That's what's going on behind the scenes, if you will. As the Iowa Hawkeyes visit Michigan State this weekend, starting left guard Bo Stevens And one of the Hawkeyes tight ends, Addison Ostrenga, are out with injuries. Stevens started all 6 games on the offensive line and injured his ankle last weekend against Washington. Kirk Ferentz says the injury is not as bad as originally thought, but he will not play this weekend. Ostrenga injured his arm in the Ohio State game. His arm has been in a sling, and Ferentz says he could be out several weeks. So Ferentz also added that the fullback Hayden Large, I love that name for a fullback, Hayden Large. It's perfect. He will play this weekend. He missed the Washington game with an ankle injury. Some USC Trojans news. Linebacker Eric Gentry, he suffered numerous concussions in a brief period of time. So he announced, you know what? I'm taking a break from football. I got to get my head healed. That's important. So he's going to officially redshirt 2024, the rest of the year. And he was a transfer in 2022 from Arizona State. And he stated this move is all about health. It's not about playing time. It's not about nil opportunities. He's a 6'6" linebacker, and he's been a big part of the new defensive coordinator, Dan Tomlin's defense there. So he was the team's leading tackler through the first month of the season. Then he missed a couple games at 6.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, forced fumble. However, due to what were undisclosed injuries at the time, he was absent from the Trojans games against Minnesota and Penn State. We now can deduce it was concussions. He could return in 2025 as a 5th-year senior. Other Trojans news. Coach Lincoln Riley announced defensive end Anthony Lucas will be out for the rest of the year with a lower extremity injury. He underwent a procedure Tuesday, thus ending his season. Lucas was a 5-star recruit who transferred to USC from Texas A&M. Defensive line for the Trojans is getting a little thin right now. And when the Oregon Ducks enter the field at Ross-Ade Stadium Friday night to take on the Purdue Boilermakers, they're going to notice a new look for the Boilers. First of all, the game will be a blackout, as all Boiler fans will be dressed in black. That's funny because Oregon just had a blackout game last Saturday at home against Ohio State. The team will be wearing all black with the new black Purdue helmets that feature the Purdue script on one side and then the player's number on the other side, all that in gold. Plus, they'll have gold face masks to contrast against the black helmets. It'll be a cool look. Check it out Friday night as they play. And as Michigan prepares for its game against Illinois, Coach Jerome Moore announced that he's adding Josiah Stewart to his group of team captains. He was an alternate before, but the edge rusher's having a good season, a lot of good leadership, stepping up during the bye week last week. Through the first 6 weeks of the season, he leads the team with 5 sacks and 8.5 tackles for loss. And remember, again, Locked On Big Ten is going to go live as soon as that Michigan-Illinois game is over on this Locked On Big Ten YouTube channel. As soon as that's over with, all right? So we'll be checking you out for that. Come see me for that. In the meantime, looking ahead to the weekend and the scheduling and all that, on Thursdays, we like to do Big Ten Classics, a Big Ten live action that you can find on the Big Ten Network. I will have all that in 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. Let me tell you about Hims. Guys, if you ever feel like you need a little boost to the old bedroom there, it's time to stop worrying about your performance and get Hims so you can feel confident whenever you are in the mood. Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your own couch. Just order it right there. Here's what you need to do. You can start your free online visit at hims.com/lockedon. That's Hims, HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. Hims.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable compound products that are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. All right, here's what we like to do. We always do a feature at the end of the program. Thursdays, we do Big Ten Classics and Big Ten Live Action on the Big Ten Network, even though we are not officially affiliated with the Big Ten Network. But let's go ahead. And if you're new to the program, real quick rundown. Mondays at the end, we always do my top 10 Big Ten observations for the week. Tuesday tweets. Wednesdays, we always have my power rankings as I see it, basically the standings of the Big Ten. Thursdays, do the classics of Friday. Pigskin Picks, we'll pick all the games in tomorrow's episode. And again, tomorrow we'll kind of do a deep dive on Oregon, making sure that this isn't a letdown spot for them at Purdue. And we'll run down all the games, all the teams in action this weekend in the Big Ten, previewing them all. So that's what we're going to be up to tomorrow. In the meantime, let's go full screen with if you're on audio only, I'll describe what we have here with our schedule. I always pick a few things on the Big Ten Network to highlight. This isn't everything, but we'll start it off on Friday, the 18th. These are Eastern times. We're started early here, 10 a.m. Eastern. If you're at work or whatever, go ahead and record this. It is a Northwestern football classic, Wisconsin at Northwestern. Justin Jackson's 160 from 2014, by the way. Justin Jackson's 162 rushing yards in a wet and windy game helped Northwestern defeat number 17 Wisconsin on that day. At 1 o'clock Eastern, we've got an Iowa football classic, Iowa and Michigan State from 2009. Iowa scored 12 points in the fourth quarter to beat Kirk Cousins and Michigan State 15-13. See, back in 2000, that's an Iowa football score right there. Not this year. Not this year, but in years past. Meanwhile, at 2 o'clock Eastern, we got an Iowa football classic, Michigan State at Iowa. Different year. The following year, 2010, Kirk Ferentz notched his 99th win. He just got his 200th win last week. This is his 99th win as the head coach of the Hawkeyes, as the 18th ranked Hawkeyes delivered the 5th ranked Spartans their first loss of the season, 37-10. Ouch. Kirk, see, that's a this year Hawkeye score. They've been scoring in the 30s and 40s. Kirk Cousins had 3 interceptions in that game. How you like that? Ricky Stanzi threw 3 touchdown passes for the Hawkeyes. And then at 6 o'clock Eastern time, got some Big Ten women's volleyball. Nebraska is at Michigan State. And then that is followed up at 8 o'clock with Penn State at Ohio State for women's volleyball. So let's take a look to Saturday now. And the Big Ten Network is going to do their Big Ten tailgate show from Illinois, from Champaign, getting ready for that big game against the Michigan Wolverines, the 100th anniversary of Red Grange's 6 touchdown game. And Illinois going with the special 3D painted helmets to make them look like leather helmets. By the way, low number in that one. If you're looking at FanDuel for the total points, you got a team pretending to wear leather helmets. You got Michigan. This is going to be a low-scoring game. We'll talk about it more tomorrow in our Pigskin Picks. They'll have their countdown to kickoff at 11:30, taking you on the field and leading you up to the game with previews from the day's biggest games and the latest news and reports from around the country. And then at 12 o'clock, just one game on the Big Ten Network on Saturday. No doubleheader, no tripleheader. All the other networks are grabbing all the other games. Right now, noon, Wisconsin at Northwestern. You got to figure we were going there with all those Big Ten classics I mentioned from Friday with Wisconsin and Northwestern. Meanwhile, Sunday, noon Eastern. You know, they do their Big Ten football in 60s where they just edit it, highlight, snap after snap after snap. You can watch a whole game in 60 minutes. Michigan at Illinois, they'll have that on at noon. You can warm up with that. It's noon Eastern before the NFL football gets kicking off around the country. 3 o'clock Eastern, they will do the Big Ten football in 60 with Nebraska at Indiana. At 5 o'clock, they've got USC at Maryland. We're going to be interested to see how USC does traveling all the way across the country to Maryland and if that's any kind of advantage for the Terps. And at 10 o'clock Eastern, they've got Wisconsin at Northwestern. Again, highlight by highlight, snap by snap, right there on the Big Ten Network. So I hope you enjoy all that. I'll let you know, keep you posted with what's going on there. In the meantime, again, tomorrow, going to talk a little more Oregon. We're going to talk to everybody. If you have a Big Ten team and they're playing this weekend, we're talking about tomorrow. So what we like to do on Fridays, but we'll start off with that Oregon-Purdue game and talk about that a little bit. In the meanwhile, there are many ways for you to interact with this podcast. Twitter, X, Talk Big Ten, number 10. Our website, talkbig10.com. Again, the number 10, talkbig10.com. Our podcasts are there. You can reach us there, and you can buy merchandise from your favorite school or team there. Then we always ask you, subscribe before you go. Just click the button, please, and that helps us out a lot. So do that, and it's free always. Subscribe. And then I always ask you, word of mouth, share. Hit that little share curved arrow. I know you know somebody that likes Big Ten stuff. We're here every day. They might not know we're here. So if you can Subscribe, share, like, and follow Locked On Big Ten, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Right there. We'll be there for you every day as soon as we release an episode, usually 6 a.m. Eastern time, video and audio, or wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. Thanks for checking us out. Can't wait to talk tomorrow because that means we're rolling into week 8 already. A lot of excitement going on around the Big Ten. Thanks for joining us. I'll talk to you tomorrow. I'm Craig Sheeman for Locked On Big Ten.